Well, welcome to today's Orchestra Careers event. I'm Sonia Thomes, and this is our first event of our 23-24 season. So excited for you to join us. I was thinking a little bit today that Orchestra Careers is 4 years old, and I can't believe it. 4 years ago, I started orchestracareers.com with just in an intent to spread awareness of the careers available with orchestras off the stage, because I didn't know my career existed until after 6 years of music school. So 4 years ago, I started just kind of a website and social media channels with a hope that, I don't know, people would care. And it's really grown into this really amazing, supportive community where I think now our mission really is to connect students and professionals around conversations about things that matter to us all, but also the orchestral industry is something we love and are passionate about together. And the best way that we can support that work is bringing and welcoming our student and recent grads into the conversation sooner than I think we have in the past. And so today's an attempt at one of those. I've got three amazing panelists who are really good friends, and we're going to feature them in a conversation called Navigating New Chapters. I've started a new chapter of my own 2 months into being the new executive director of the Wheeling Symphony here in West Virginia. And so I've moved to a new city, I've started a new job, and so have all three of our panelists. So we just wanted to talk a little bit about that in hopes that the information is helpful, and also we'll have plenty of time for questions from the attendees. So keep note of those. But let's dive right in. I'm going to have our panelists introduce themselves. And so, Dan, I see you first on my screen. Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Sure. Hello, everyone. My name is Dan Dardon. I just recently graduated from Vanderbilt University in Nashville, Tennessee, and I'm currently living in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, working with the Pittsburgh Symphony Orchestra as the artistic liaison and personal assistant to music director. My background is in tuba performance, so that's what I studied in school. And while I was in Nashville, I got to know Sonia and orchestra careers and just kind of got to find hobbies and other career interests I had outside of playing the tuba. Did quite a few internships with the National Repertory Orchestra. Did some educational internships in music education, and found out that arts admin was something that I love. And I've been lucky enough to get a head start on that in my career so far.
Awesome. Reno, can you introduce yourself, tell us where you are now, and maybe a little bit about your background and how you got to your current role?
Absolutely. My name is Reno Ruiz, and I am the Major Gifts Officer for the Plano Symphony Orchestra. I am about to graduate from Texas Tech in December with a Bachelor of Arts in Music. I have a background in euphonium. I did performance and music ed a little bit, then decided I was going to go straight into the admin route and get a minor in arts entrepreneurship. I have a background with leadership. I'm on the National Board of Directors for my music fraternity, Phi Mi Alpha Sinfonia, and I'm on the Board of Trustees for their fundraising branch, the Symphony Educational Foundation, which is kind of where I found my love for fundraising and organizational management and arts administration. So yeah, that's kind of my background.
Awesome. And Kirsten.
Yeah, I'm Kirsten Loynachan, and I'm currently the Assistant Personnel Manager for the Kansas City Symphony. I just got the job in March, so I've been here about 6-7 months now. But I was a bassoonist all throughout college. I went to Luther College in Decorah, Iowa, where I studied both music and accounting. And I realized that I wanted to do something that kind of combined both of those areas. So something more in arts admin, because I didn't totally want to go the accounting route, but I didn't want to professionally play bassoon either. And that's kind of around the time that I found Sonia and her orchestra careers, and got connected there and went to the League of American Orchestras conference a couple of summers ago. And that was super helpful in learning about the industry and all the different opportunities in orchestra careers. Yeah, and finally landed my job with the Kansas City Symphony and loving it. So
That's awesome. So I do want to hear a little bit more about each of your roles. I love to, part of what I'd like to do with these conversations is just give people a peek into what are your jobs? Like, what are you actually doing? How does it fit into the the bigger work of the organization that you're at. So Kirsten, I'll just throw it back to you. Can you tell us a little bit about what does it mean to be an assistant personnel manager?
Yeah, of course. So I was thinking about this. I think I split my time probably half at the office and half at the performance venue. And so when I'm at the office, I'm doing a lot of hiring substitute musicians. A lot of times orchestra members are on leave or things like that, where we need a couple extra violins or an extra bassoon for a certain piece that we're doing. And so I'll communicate with a lot of substitute musicians and bring them in to play with our orchestra. I also coordinate auditions, and that takes up a pretty big portion of my time. So collecting resumes and reaching out and sending rep lists out to all of the audition candidates, things like that. And then when I actually am at the hall, which is quite often, it's a lot of just talking to musicians and fielding questions before and during rehearsals, and making sure that we start rehearsal on time and, take the break, at the appropriate time, things like that. So just kind of running rehearsals and making sure things stay on the timeline.
Mm-hmm. So Reno, how about you? What does it mean to be a major gifts officer?
Yeah, so I mean, as everybody knows, it takes money to run the orchestra, and so I work with the executive director who serves as the chief development officer also, and I'm over our giving circle society, so we call it the Virtuoso Society, and we just launched planned giving. So that was my strategy and my baby and my role, figuring out how we wanted to increase planned giving and start it as a whole project. And we're also kind of doing a young professionals organization, and I'm over that with another member that went to the same school as me. And so I work a lot, kind of my day to day. I sit and look through our donor lists and see, who might be somebody that would be interested in joining our giving circle, or who might be interested in increasing or giving to a certain project that we have. I work a lot with our donors one-on-one and make sure all of their needs are met and all of their wants are met to our best of our ability. And then, of course, I kind of do a lot of data and run where we can go and how much we might need to fund a certain project, or add an extra rehearsal, or make a new concert, something of that sort. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And Dan, you are the artistic liaison and personal assistant to the music director. Did I get the order right? Okay, lots of words.
Yeah.
Tell us about that.
With that position, I work in the artistic planning department, and I support the vice president of the artistic planning department as well as the music director, making sure they have all that they need to be able to get the artistic vision across to our community, so they understand, what the Pittsburgh Symphony does and what they're about musically. And for our music director, he's based in Europe, so when he comes over across to America, I basically am his manager assistant while he's here, making sure all his needs are taken care of. He's meeting with the donors that he needs to be meeting with, the board members, to make sure that the PSO is being supported correctly and they feel like they're being heard and seen as well. And then also we have a lot of guest artists that come from different parts all across the globe. So kind of making sure that they feel welcomed in Pittsburgh and they have a really wonderful experience and are willing to come back and make music with us again. And then some more of the administrative stuff that I do is just like a lot of research projects. It goes into creating and developing our programming for future seasons, and just keeping track of what we're doing as an organization artistically.
Well, I'm just so impressed and inspired by how you all three of you in your own way has been pushed like right into the mix of your organization's work. And I've experienced that myself being a new executive director. Learning a new job is one thing, but I know that all of us, and Reno, you're on your way to moving to a new city. So I want to throw this out to the panel, and I'd love to hear from each of you, but someone can volunteer to go first. What have been some of the biggest challenges of starting a new job in a new city? And also, I would say your first job out of college.
I know my situation's a little different because I was remote and I haven't yet moved there, but I really have struggled finding an apartment in North Dallas. They were crazy. Thankfully, our conductor's wife is a realtor for apartments. So that kind of worked in my favor, and I was able to work with her. And then also staying connected, going for me 5 hours away from my family, from my university. I've already kind of prepared and seen like, how am I gonna make new friends in the area or stay connected with my friends while I'm, working the 9 to 5 and being busy, and all my friends are in college still. So that has definitely been kind of my most recent like struggle or challenges, staying connected and with finding an apartment, most difficult thing.
Hmm. So what does stressed Reno look like? Are you able to stay calm and find ways to stay balanced in that, or have you had some freak out moments?
I've definitely had a little bit of freak out moments, but in general, I try and stay really like strategic and keep my cool, because I know if I lose it, like I'm not going to be able to be productive or be able to achieve what I want to achieve in whatever I'm doing. So I keep a lot of lists. I threw away. I haven't been in this on this desk in 8 weeks, and I threw away 7 sticky notes from 8 weeks ago yesterday. Um, and then I have notes on my app or on my phone app, and then on my calendar, I have a million different things. So I just really try and keep everything laid out so I don't get stressed. But
I love that. I've definitely been feeling like I haven't been writing anything down in the last 2 months, and I just started doing to-do lists again, which is I'm not advocating for that. I'm saying writing things down is really good, and it's actually now I'm starting to put together another strategy in the midst of the stress, where writing things down really makes a difference. Number one, it gets it out of my head, but number two, keeps me organized and helps me prioritize. Um, Kirsten, how about you? What have been some of the biggest challenges? New job, new city, new professional?
Yeah, kind of going off of what Reno said, just finding a social network kind of outside of work. I do have some really great friends at work, which has been super nice just with the transition and um, just being 5 hours away from college and from home and where I grew up. It's been great having such supportive coworkers. Um, but yeah, just trying to find different groups in the area. I've kind of been looking for groups that are recurring so that you see the same people every week. Maybe I joined a kickball league actually, so that's been fun to see those people every week. And some of them happen to be music people as well who are getting grad degrees in like vocal performance, so been able to find some good friends there. But yeah, it's you know kind of tough to find a social network at first, but it does work out eventually. Also, just work life balance was the other thing I was thinking about. It's a lot just going into a new job, a new city, and wanting to do your best at the job that you've just landed, and figuring out how to balance that, your day in terms of when am I gonna be at work, when am I gonna be home, when do I have to be at rehearsals. So just being aware of your needs in terms of alone time or time to recharge has been really helpful to pay attention to for me, and just prioritizing that, throughout my week and planning ahead when I should be doing that. So yeah.
That's great. And Dan, how about you? What's it been like? What's been some of the challenges that you've encountered in your journey?
Um, Similarly to Reno and Kirsten, just meeting lots of people and trying to make genuine connections. There are a lot of musicians in the orchestra, taking the time to meet all of them because I get to see them a lot, working so closely with the music director, and them knowing that they can come to me for things. And then also just administratively, like it's just a really big organization, and a lot of people do have backgrounds in music, but some people don't. And the things that they are really knowledgeable about bring a bit like really valuable things to the organization. So like learning a lot about marketing or learning about development, things that I don't have necessarily a background in, like taking that as opportunity to like be vulnerable, be like, hey, I don't know about this. Would you mind like explaining what you do a little bit more? And then also similar to Kirsten, just finding like a work-life balance when the music director's in town. There's lots and lots of late nights, working just about every single concert. So, you need to find, I need to find time to step back a little bit, like when he's not here, and, just do some things that are fun for me and just like rest a little bit. I'm a big sports fan. So being in Pittsburgh, there's a lot of good sports teams. So I've gone to a couple baseball games, still looking to go to some hockey games, but just trying to find things that I enjoy too.
Mhm. So, who are some of the people that have been your biggest sources of support during this transition? I'll throw it back to you, Dan.
Sure. So my girlfriend and her family have been a big source of support. They're actually down in Morgantown, about an hour drive away. I'm from Chicago, so that's a 7 hour drive, and then Nashville's a 7 hour drive. So just escaping there for like every few weeks, just to go see some familiar faces. It's been nice. And then also the people in my department that I work really closely with. We know how much work we're all doing, and so we're like really aware of each other and just like, hey, maybe you should take a break, or hey, let's go grab drinks, or let's go get a meal or lunch together and just talk about something that's not work. So I've been really appreciative of my team for that.
Hmm. Reno, how about you? Who's been in your corner and supporting you during this transition?
Um, Same with Dan. I mean, my girlfriend is great, and she's closer than kind of anybody for me. So we've hung out a lot, and she's kind of helped me with the transition. And then thankfully, a recent graduate of Texas Tech just joined the staff at the Plano Symphony too, and him and I are friends, and he's a music major, so we were friends in college. So we've been able to talk about things and strategize together to new faces in the organization and how we want to bring ourselves and bring everything we know and work together. So that has been great. When we have good things or bad things we want to talk about and vent or kind of get out our emotions or whatever, he's been really amazing. And then of course family, but they are family, they're always there. So yeah, those have been kind of my main people.
How about you, Kirsten?
Yeah, just kind of the same as Dan and Reno. Coworkers are super helpful. I've got a couple coworkers that I've gotten pretty close to, and you know, we know what each other's schedules are like, and what we spend all day together, at the orchestra, and it's really helpful to just have people who understand your job and what you're going through, and those relationships are really important, and can help a lot when you're moving to a new city and starting a new job. Yeah, family and friends are always really helpful. FaceTime is a really awesome thing when you live 5 hours away from some of your friends. So yeah, all those things.
Yeah, no, that's great. I definitely relate to the trying to find activities where you, like you said, Kirsten, find recurring groups that you can build stronger connections. I actually started a hiking group at the church I was at in Nashville. I had started a hiking group 2 years ago, and it's still going strong. So when I found a new church, which is important to me, I said, "Hey, do you mind if I start a hiking group?" They're like, "That's a great idea." I said, "Awesome," because we're going to do this, and it's been really fun to just get out. And it's so important to get out of the office and away from work to clear your head. And it's can be very consuming to start a new job as well. So finding those moments, whether like Dan, you said, am I hungry? Am I tired? Do I need to hydrate? Do I need a meal? Do I need to get some fresh air? Or just a phone call with a friend or a family member. There's kind of no substitute for those really simple things. So I've really kind of reconnected with how those simple things can really fill me up. Before I turn it over to kind of the attendees, there was one more question I kind of wanted to talk through. Now that I've been living and learning a new job, what advice would you have to someone starting a new job? Because there's so much, and it's so overwhelming to learn the organization and learn the job itself. What were kind of some of the first steps, or what was your method in those first, I don't know, 30, 60 days to just kind of start learning the job? I don't know if anyone wants to jump in.
Sure, I'll jump in. definitely having humility and not being afraid to ask a lot of questions. There's a lot of information overload, and I needed to write a lot of things down and just be like, could you clarify that for me, or could you show me how you do this, or like what's the most efficient way? Because personally, I feel like that's a lot easier than just like going with the assumption that you know how to do something and then not being correct, and then going back and then having to do double that. So just having the humility to ask questions. Everyone wants to see you succeed. So that's been really helpful for me.
Mm-hmm. Reno, how about you? What were some of those first like priorities for you in your new job?
Definitely humility. That has been, I've come from such a different background, and then, I'm in development. So whether I'm writing a proposal or a grant or something, I have to match the voice. And my voice personally is very different than the voice of the symphony. So I've had to really ask a lot of questions like, why do you say it like this? Or why do you function in this way? And also to build trust within the workplace. So then when I say, hey, what if we try this new thing? People understand more and we can explain it. We have a better relationship. And then staying really connected as best as I could, like calling people all the time. And when I don't understand something, like my coworker that I'm friends with being like, why do we do it this way? I don't get it. And being able to talk things out so I can start understanding more, and not getting like just only act to the grindstone and not thinking of anything else.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Kirsten, how about you?
I kind of echo all the same things, writing things down, and asking lots of questions. People aren't gonna be mad at you for asking questions, especially when you're new to the industry, new to the role. And people are always happy to answer questions and help you learn and grow. Um, the people in this industry are really, really fantastic, and they're gonna want to help you as much as possible. So it's really important to reach out if you need help and have, questions about anything really.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I wrote a lot of things down, wrote a lot of questions, used my ears a lot, just listening too, right? You do a lot of listening, observing, and then trying to, in my mind, I was trying to like map out like whether it's a flow chart or an organizational chart. I was trying to make sense of all the pieces and parts of the information I was getting. But I just started a new notebook because I realized I filled up an entire notebook in the first 2 months of just note taking, trying to like make sense of really the institutional history, what has worked well in the past, what could use maybe some new solutions. And I've also been sensitive to not like change things too quickly or to, without a lot of information, because I'm in a leadership role and, needing to make some decisions, and people are looking to me to lead the work in a lot of ways. And I want to know, how did it work before? What worked well? What have you always wanted to change? That's always an interesting question to ask. And then slowly now I feel like 2 months in, I'm starting to actually make some decisions. That might sound strange, but that's the way I've been approaching it. But just getting to know the people too, building those relationships with your coworkers is the foundation on which everything else will be achieved. And so you hadn't mentioned it specifically, the three of you, but I know that you're building relationship because you're saying that you've got great colleagues. And so there's no substitute for pursuing that relationship when you don't need something, right? When you are just there to build rapport and camaraderie and understand what their job is and understand what they need from you. And then you can build upon that trust that you're growing in the rest of your work. So I'm going to pause right there. Attendees, get your questions ready. I've got one more question, but I'm going to turn it to a member of our new Student Advisory Committee, which is here at Orchestra Careers. I've always wanted, the voice I've wanted guiding the work of Orchestra Careers is the student voice. And so when we had some transition on our Orchestra Careers team over the summer, I wanted to bring on some new student advisors, and we had so much interest that I decided to form a committee, and we've got 4 of them here today. If you want to raise your hand or just say, we got Jada and we've got Julia, and we've got Alicia, and Valentina is here too. And so Jada, I wanted to toss it to you for this next question for the panelists. So why don't you take it away?
So the question I wanted to ask was basically like, how would you advise like students navigating their future, and like, what would you say to them about different doubts and fears they might have?
For me, I'm a big believer in just kind of like pushing yourself, I guess, and like pushing past those like affirmations, or pushing past those doubts with affirmations or something of the sort. I had no idea I was going to go into arts administration. Like my job kind of fell into my lap at the League of American Orchestras conference. I was still in school. It just totally worked out perfectly. And I struggled with realizing with seeing if I would be good in the role or whatnot. And I think a lot of that for me just came down to like, I have training in this area, or like, I know I'm good at this, or like all my life I've been told, I know, Reno, you're great at talking. You'd be a great salesman or something like that. So I was like, I'm good at talking to people. I know I can do development, because so much of that is relationship management. And I just really, really pushed myself to kind of think outside the box, or when I was doubting myself, like, pushing that away and being like, I know I can do this. I know I can, or writing it down and kind of like throwing away the page or something like that, just to really push away my fears and my insecurities or doubt with my career or whatever changes that are happening as I've transitioned into it.
I can jump in here real quick. I think for me, it was about being patient and kind with myself. After I graduated, there was about 6 months in my first year out of college where I didn't have a job, and I was looking and applying, and it is hard at times. And just remembering that, the right job is going to happen when it's going to happen, and kind of trusting that is really important. And it's hard to do sometimes, but just being patient and kind is something that can go a long way, whether you're looking for a job or starting a new job or moving to a new city. Those two things can really get you a long ways.
I echo what was said previously, and then just like exploring your curious itch and avoiding tunnel vision. Going into college, I was like, I'm a tuba player. I'm going to play in a major symphony orchestra. That's the route for me, and I'm not going to stop until I do it. And then just being in a new environment in Vanderbilt, and being around so many people studying different things, so many professors who are specialists in different things, even within the music school. I got curious and just wanted to learn more about different pathways within the arts and within music. And that's kind of how I got here. And then also just like, taking a leap of faith. I was supposed to actually go to UMKC to get my master's in tuba performance. And the Pittsburgh Symphony got back to me like right after I accepted UMKC's offer. And it was a little bit scary to think about doing something else aside from playing tuba professionally, but it seemed like a good opportunity, and I was curious. I'm here now, and I've enjoyed my time here.
Oh, thank you all for sharing. I hope that you're taking lots of notes as you're watching this. There's just so many good things. And the other thing that strikes me is you all are starting out in your first job, and here I am almost 20 years into my career, and it all still applies. So I think that it's the things that are being shared today stand the test of time. And so they're really, really fundamental lessons that I think I'm even being reminded of. So I'm going to open it up now to our attendees or the committee, whoever's here. Just you've got access to these three awesome professionals. Just raise your hand if you've got a question. Alicia.
I was wondering, now I'm starting to also kind of maybe look for jobs related to this field. And I was wondering, like, did you did first like an internship and then from there you got to like a job, or it was directly to a job, or like do you do anything related before work wise, or I don't know.
Dan, do you want to talk a little bit about your NRO experience?
Yeah, sure. I did a internship with a summer training orchestra for pre-professionals, NRO, and it was a really great experience for me. And I would advise people to do an internship in something that you're really curious about potentially doing as a profession. It's a safe space to learn whether or not you enjoy or really like that curiosity. And it was just a really valuable hands-on experience that I was able to use in my interview and be able to like have relatable things to talk about. And then also so far in my position, just learning how to talk arts lingo, things like that. It's been really helpful. So if you can do an internship, I'd highly encourage that.
Reno, you've got a really unique set of experience that really directly translated to your work here. But you want to talk a little bit about the work you've done with the fraternity?
Yeah, so I'm in Phi Mu Alpha, and I a year after I was initiated, I was elected to be the collegiate representative on the national board of directors, and then I was appointed from there onto the board of trustees for our philanthropic arm, and that just threw me for a loop. And that's really how I found my love for arts administration. I thought I was going to be a band director. I live in Texas, like that's all you can do is be a band director. And I just realized like there's something I really like about this. I don't know what it is. You know, I kind of like that backside of organizations, and but I didn't know what the path was to get there. I had no idea. Um, and thankfully, I knew somebody, Millie Harrod, who's the membership manager for the National Flute Association. And when I started thinking like I kind of want to go into arts administration, I talked to her, and she got me connected with orchestra careers, and I got connected with Sonia. And I ended up cold calling literally like 15 different places this past summer for internships or just like volunteering. Like, let me just sit there and do copies for you while you tell me what you do. In Lubbock and the Texans for the Arts, which is an advocacy group, and all kinds of stuff. And I actually ended up getting 2 internships from it. One of them I had to turn down because then I got my job. And then one of them I did with the university. I cold called our development department, and I was like, hey, I'm interested in development. I want to do fundraising. I think I'd be good at it. I think I'd enjoy it. And they're like, sure, let's do it. You know, come in, we'll teach you everything you need to know. And that was tremendously helpful. But I mean, areas everywhere may not have access to the opportunities I had, but I mean, definitely internships were extremely helpful in learning and getting some of the little experiences.
Kirsten, do you feel like what was the some of the stepping stones to your role from school
Yeah.
to career?
I think something that I realized, even just working with you, Sonia, was that a lot of my experiences in college were actually arts management experience. And I didn't even realize it necessarily until I worked with you and, put some of these things on paper and grouped them together. I did some music theory tutoring. I assistant directed a couple of different musicals and things that my college put on, and was like a audio technician for a few years, for a lot of student recitals. And so a lot of these experiences were actually really applicable to what I do now. And I realized over time that what I really loved was setting musicians up to be successful. And that was kind of what I had been doing all along. And so, I also had a couple of internships. I went out to Oregon for a little bit and worked for an arts nonprofit after college. And so all the experience that you can get is really helpful. But it doesn't have to be, directly related to what you want to do necessarily all the time. So a lot of different diverse experiences can really help just build your resume, and they all kind of go together to help build a list of skills that you have that can apply to any job that you might be pursuing in the future. So yeah.
That's great. What other questions do you all have? Gloria or Glow, so excuse me.
Both work.
Mhm.
I had like a thought and a question as I graduated college, and I kind of had that experience as well where I kind of dipped into theater first. And that was like the major that I was assigned when I first went to USC. And then I got an internship at like an orchestra company at Musique in Pasadena, California. And then that's when I was like, okay, I really want to do something live music. I want to do something more orchestral based. But then narrowing that down while also hearing, you have to have an open mind and you have to like discover more broader topics, like in order, because as Kirsten said that like they all connect. And now as a graduate who has had that internship experience, who has gotten, a degree in theater and a minor in pop music studies, it definitely has been a challenge of, okay, now do I have to see this as a narrow view of I want to specifically do this and pursue only this, or having that open mind of maybe I would like to try other nonprofits or other performance-based nonprofits. So definitely on the fence of getting another internship or starting something part-time, full-time. And if there's a way to navigate those specific steps or just broadly in a directional way, how could I potentially navigate or search what I could potentially reach out for next?
I have two thoughts to offer. One is it sounds like you've got a lot to offer and you've got a lot of probably a broad skill set and a lot of interests, right? And what I'm hearing is you're like, how do I just choose the next step and make sure I'm not like, locking myself into one path and maybe I won't like it. So two thoughts just to consider. One is talk to people who you think their jobs are cool and see what it's like to do their job. Like the more professionals you can get connected with in maybe a broad range, and maybe it's locally, maybe it's nationally, and I'm happy to line you up with, I'm not so connected in the theater world, but obviously very connected in the orchestral world. So if you're going on like websites and you're like, oh, I love the New York Phil, and I'm just gonna, oh, I'd love to talk to this person who does that. Talking to people who do jobs that you think you could see yourself doing and finding out what it actually is like to do that job might just give you some intel. The other thing I would offer, the other direction I would offer is more organizational based. And like what a question I like to ask students when I'm talking with them is, what's the impact you want to have on the world? Like think big picture now. And if there's an organization that you love the mission that they have, and you're like, I want to work for that organization, I don't care what I do. I could be making copies or I could be, asking for money. But if there's a mission-based organization that you really connect with what they're doing and the impact they're having on the world, then that kind of helps to focus I like to call it your job search filter. But in a way that is going to be meaningful and relevant for you, because number one, the thing that as a hiring manager that is really important is motivational fit. And if you are connected to the mission or connected to the work and the impact you can have through a role, that goes a long way as a candidate. Of course, you need skills and abilities and potential and openness to training, but because once that motivational fit is lost, either or it's if I'm in a decision about trying to figure out which candidate might be the one I want to hire, I really come back to that, because that passion really does lead to longevity and sustainability often in the job. So I hope that's like kind of two different paths, that you can maybe explore a little bit.
Thank you.
What else? Who else has a question? Max.
Yeah, I'm curious. I guess just among your jobs, did the expectations of what you thought the job would be like match the reality once you got started? Or were there things that were different or unexpected, or like certain skills that you had to develop more along the way?
Good question.
Yeah, for me, actually, on my first day, it's not planned at all. They apologized about 1,000 times. The director of development ended up telling everybody that he was moving because he got an executive director position somewhere else in the area. So then, like, I was like, dread immediately. Oh no, like I am, the only other development staff member other than the executive director. Like, what's going to happen? So really quickly, I feel like there's a joke in nonprofit in general that's like, and duties as assigned. Like I have a million and duties as assigned. Sometimes it's like, hey, will you make copy for this marketing thing? Yeah, I can make copy, I guess. Or hey, will you call this patron and make sure their tickets are correct? Yeah, I can do that. Um, there's a lot of things, but I think a lot of it for me was just talking to my boss and my other coworkers and being like, hey, like I think this would be a better fit because this is kind of what you do, and it'll take me 2 hours to do it, and it'll take you 5 minutes. And we kind of worked out different things. Were like, oh, if somebody got sent something, they would send it to me to do because it's more in my field, and kind of navigating that organizational structure. So we minimized that as we had that position change. But even still, I mean, there's a lot of duties that will get assigned to people that we're like, what? But we know that it's something that we have to do for the benefit of the orchestra. And as we plan and figure it out and make it as efficient as possible, it'll become automated or non-existent.
I can jump in. I think something that I wasn't expecting to do, which makes sense when you think about the role, but I didn't think about it before I started, was how many cold calls I'd be making to musicians. Because part of my job is, if a musician is, calls me and is sick on a Tuesday night at 9 p.m., we need to find someone to replace them before our 10 a.m. rehearsal the next morning. So just getting used to, being ready to call musicians if we're doing a program that week, or just jumping on the phone to hire people last minute. That's been kind of a skill I've had to develop that I didn't necessarily think of before I got the job. Also, I think, Reno, you said other duties as assigned. Probably a month into my job, I found out that I would be the person to be cueing the cannons when we did the 1812 overture for our it's a celebration at the station, a big outdoor program that we do for Memorial Day. So that was also something that I had to learn how to do leading up to that performance. So there's all kinds of things that you'll learn that you weren't expecting before, and it's all really fun. It's all related to the job and exciting, and yeah.
And you can add that to your resume.
Exactly, yes.
We have a show here in Wheeling. Our holiday show is called Symphony on Ice, and it's legit in an ice arena, and it's an ice skating show to a live orchestra. I am so excited, but intermission has to be long enough for the Zamboni process. So I'm like, I am down for the other duties assigned. I want to learn all there is to know about Zambonis and ice skating shows with live orchestras. The other thing I would say about nonprofit life, Reno, is no 2 days are the same. Like, just expect the unexpected and the variety, because we're in it. I think we're in this industry because of that engagement and variety. But yeah, no 2 days are the same for sure. Dan, have there been any sort of like unexpected things that have kind of come away in your role?
Yeah, similar to Reno, we lost like one person in a very small department within my first week of working there, and I was just like, oh, there's a lot of things that I need to learn and come get up to date on quickly. But then also just learning other people's voices, I would say. Our music director, English isn't his first language, and he's been here for a while and he speaks really good English. but he has a lot of questions, and sometimes I have to write things for him. So just learning his voice when I'm writing like letters for him or like editing like a speech for him, it's just like he's a very I'm looking for the words to describe because it's a different voice from mine. But just being really in tune with who he is as a person and trying to embody that whenever I'm writing something has been a skill that I've been learning, and I think it's a valuable skill I've been thankful to practice.
Excellent. I think we've got time for about 2 more questions. Does someone have a question? Awesome. Well, I guess I have a question for the panel. Like, have you found like a favorite food spot, coffee shop? Like, what's, that you're like, yep, that's where I go every Tuesday morning. I don't know. Is there some sort of security blanket of the new favorite place that you found in your new city?
It's not a food spot for me, but I found a really cute outdoor park that has a lake and people can go paddleboarding and there's a trail all around it. And so I'll go there at least twice a week and go on a run or just a walk in nature. And that's been really, really nice to have as a person who is used to the more outdoorsy, naturey places. So.
Mhm.
Let's see, for me, I love coffee. So immediately I found a coffee spot like really close to the hall that I go and stop by just about every morning called Rock and Joe. And that's been a staple for me. And then also during my lunch breaks, I bring my lunch and I walk across the bridge, one of the many bridges in Pittsburgh, and walk along the river, along the baseball and football stadium. And that's really therapeutic for me during like a really long, intense, stressful day. But yeah, that's been it for me.
Mhm. How about you, Reno?
Well,
What are you looking forward to? You're in the
yeah,
process of moving.
I know. My apartment's 2 minutes drive from the office, which is perfect, but there's no food places there. So I'm gonna
Oh.
explore a ton. I'm really excited for In-N-Out Burger because I was raised on In-N-Out Burger, and they did not have any close to me.
In and out, nice. I have to get a Five Guys cheeseburger every once in a while. Luckily, there's one like 2 minutes from my apartment. So, um, well, I've been really enjoying the fall leaves here in West Virginia. Autumn has been unbelievably beautiful, and I love hiking and I love being outdoors, and so I just try to do that as much as possible. Were there any last questions for our panel? Well, thank you so much, Kirsten, Reno, Dan. It's just been so great to hear your stories, and I've been encouraged by what you've shared today. I hope that this has been helpful to all of you. If, as you're undoubtedly going to be navigating new chapters all through life, but stay tuned. We're planning the rest of our events for the season. So follow us on Instagram, Facebook, or subscribe to our newsletter so you can get all the information. But you can always reach out if you have any questions, info@orchestracareers.com. I would love to speak with you, get you connected to a professional who you think their job is cool and you want to learn more about it, or just talk about your resume or prepping for interview or a job search. So thanks again to our panel, and thanks to all of you for joining us today. Hope to see you at a next event. Bye.